The morning sun peeked through the dusty window of Armin's small mechanic shop, casting golden streaks across rusted tools and broken machines. The rhythmic sound of a hammer striking metal filled the air as Armin worked on an old bicycle frame, humming softly to keep his mind from wandering toward his unpaid bills. The world outside his little shop barely noticed him, but Armin had long accepted that quiet kind of life, one filled with hard work, hope, and the belief that kindness still mattered. Just then, the sound of screeching tires broke the stillness. A luxurious black SUV stopped right in front of the shop, its glossy surface reflecting the morning light. Armin straightened, wiping his hands on a rag as the car door opened. A tall woman stepped out, dressed in a crisp white suit that clearly didn't belong in this dusty part of town. She looked around hesitantly before walking toward him. "Are you Armin?" she asked, her voice calm yet carrying the kind of authority only the wealthy possessed. "Yes, ma'am. How can I help you?" Armin replied politely. From the back seat, a young girl's face appeared, pale, fragile, and curious. Her eyes were large, full of innocence and quiet sadness. She was seated in a wheelchair, its metal frame dented and the wheels squeaking miserably. "This is my daughter, Lily," the woman said softly. "Her wheelchair, it's breaking down again. We've taken it to every technician in the city. They all say it's beyond repair. But she refuses to let it go." Armin crouched down beside Lily, who avoided eye contact at first. "Hey, princess," he said gently. "Mind if I take a look?" She nodded shyly. Armin examined the chair. The gears were worn out, the joints rusted, and one wheel nearly snapped in half. Anyone else would have told them to buy a new one. But Armin saw something different, a bond between the child and her chair, a story he couldn't ignore. He looked up with a small, determined smile. "I'll fix it," he said. "And not just fix it, I'll make it better than new." Lily's eyes sparkled for the first time in a long while. Her mother looked skeptical, but something in Armin's tone made her believe, maybe, just maybe, this poor mechanic could do what others couldn't, bring her daughter's joy back. That evening, Armin stood alone in his dimly lit workshop, the silence broken only by the soft ticking of an old wall clock. Lily's wheelchair stood in the middle of the floor, its worn frame glinting faintly under the single bulb that hung above. It looked fragile, almost lifeless, but to Armin, it was more than a broken chair. It was a child's dream waiting to be rebuilt. He laid out his few tools, some wrenches, a small welder, and his father's old hammer. They weren't much, but they had always been enough for him. He pulled out a piece of chalk and began sketching on the concrete floor. New wheels, lighter frame, smoother motion, maybe even a touch of light, something magical for a child who had known too much pain. Outside, rain started tapping against the tin roof, its steady rhythm matching the beating of Armin's heart. He scavenged through piles of scrap metal, sorting through discarded bicycle parts, car components, and old gears. Every bolt he picked up told a story of someone who had given up on something. But Armin refused to give up. Hours turned into days. He barely slept, working deep into the night while the rest of the town slept peacefully. The hum of his welding torch became a lullaby of hope. The smell of oil and steel filled the air as sparks flew like tiny stars around him. His friend Imran stopped by one night, holding 2 cups of tea. "You're still working on that thing?" he asked, shaking his head. "Armin, she's rich. Even if you fix it, she won't care. Don't waste your time." Armin took the cup, his eyes never leaving the wheelchair. "It's not about her money," he said softly. "It's about her smile. If I can make that little girl feel free again, that's worth more than any paycheck." Imran sighed, understanding but still worried. "You've got a kind heart, brother. Just don't let it break you." Armin smiled faintly. "Hearts that give don't break, Imran. They shine." As the clock struck midnight, Armin continued working, his hands steady, his eyes bright with purpose. The rain outside slowed to a whisper, as if even the night was holding its breath to see what miracle this poor mechanic would create. A week later, the morning sun painted the dusty workshop in shades of gold and orange. Armin hadn't slept properly in days, but his tired eyes sparkled with quiet satisfaction. The transformation was complete. What once was a broken, creaking wheelchair had become something out of a child's dream. He wiped the last bit of grease off the shining frame, took a deep breath, and whispered, "You're ready." Moments later, the familiar black SUV pulled up outside. Armin's heart pounded, not out of fear, but anticipation. Mrs. Raymond stepped out first, elegant as always, though her face carried a trace of doubt. Lily followed, her little hands resting gently on the armrests of her old wheelchair. When Armin rolled the new creation forward, both mother and daughter froze. The wheelchair gleamed like a piece of art, its smooth, pearl-white body shimmered under the light, accented with soft blue edges that glowed like moonlight. The seat was made of custom memory foam wrapped in soft leather, and golden stitching spelled out her name, Lily. The wheels, rebuilt with a lightweight alloy, spun silently and smoothly. A small button near the armrest controlled gentle LED lights that danced like stars when turned on. Lily gasped, her eyes wide in disbelief. Is that really for me?" she whispered. Armin nodded, smiling warmly. "Every bit of it." He knelt beside her and adjusted the seat, explaining each part with care. "This button adjusts the height, this one reclines the back, and this switch here, well, it's a surprise." He pressed it, and soft instrumental music began to play from tiny hidden speakers. Lily's laughter filled the workshop, bright, pure, and alive. She placed her hands on the wheels and began to move, gliding effortlessly across the floor. "It's like flying," she shouted joyfully, spinning in circles as the blue lights trailed behind her like shooting stars. Mrs. Raymond covered her mouth, tears glistening in her eyes. She looked at Armin, a poor mechanic who had somehow created magic with his bare hands. "You didn't just fix a chair," she whispered. "You gave her wings." Armin smiled humbly, his eyes misty. Sometimes all a dream needs is a little faith, and a few bolts of hope. For the first time in years, Lily's laughter echoed beyond the walls of that small garage, a sound more valuable than all the riches in the world. 3 days had passed since Armin delivered the wheelchair. His small workshop had gone quiet again, filled only with the ticking of tools and the hum of the ceiling fan. But something inside him had changed. He felt a calm satisfaction he hadn't known before. For the first time in years, he didn't measure his success by money, but by the sound of a child's laughter echoing in his memory. That evening, as the sun began to dip below the rooftops, the same sleek black SUV pulled up outside his house. Armin looked up from his workbench, surprised. The vehicle's reflection shimmered in the fading light like a visitor from another world. Mrs. Raymond stepped out gracefully, holding an envelope in her hand. Behind her, Lily rolled out in her shining wheelchair, the one Armin had built, looking brighter and happier than ever. "Mr. Armin," she called, waving with excitement. "Look, it still flies." She spun in a circle, the soft blue lights sparkling against the sunset. Armin chuckled, wiping his hands on his old rag. "It looks like it's taken off already." Mrs. Raymond walked toward him with a warmth that wasn't there before. "You did something no one else could," she said softly. "You restored her joy, and reminded me of what true kindness looks like." She handed him the envelope. "This is a small token of gratitude." Armin hesitated. "Ma'am, I didn't do it for." "I know," she interrupted gently, smiling. "That's exactly why you deserve it." He opened the envelope and found not just money, but a letter, an official offer. Mrs. Raymond continued, "I've started a new foundation, Dream Motion. It's dedicated to creating mobility innovations for children with disabilities. And I want you to lead our design team. You have something no one else in my company has, heart." For a moment, Armin stood speechless, his throat tightening. I'm just a small mechanic," he whispered. Mrs. Raymond smiled kindly. "Not anymore. You're an inventor of hope." Tears welled in his eyes as he looked at Lily, who beamed up at him. "Told you, Mr. Armin," she said. "You made it fly." As the evening breeze swept through the narrow street, Armin felt something shift inside him. He wasn't just fixing broken things anymore,